experts, making sure you win in every market. Your financial partners, Don and Gino.
On the Don and Gino Real Estate Finance Show every Thursday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KCS. In fact, we'd love you to join us here at the Vault, speaking of financial. Our new Vault Media Studios right here at Cherry Creek Mortgage. And you can only enter because you would get no keys. The only way you can enter is go to donandgino.com, click on the Listen Chat Live button, and voila, you enter the vault. You'll get to see our strapping guest who basically got us all addicted to Afterburn Fitness single-handedly. Now there's, 8 or 9 of us, I think, from Cherry Creek Mortgage going there.
I think there is 9 of us. It's
9?
Yeah, I guess the only downside to that, and it's not a downside, but it feels like work starts at 5 a.m. now because everybody's there. It's like the whole clan. So it's like, oh, well, we're at work already?
Yeah, good thing we like each other, huh?
Yeah.
And Chris is like, I know you guys are taking over the gym. They quit using my weights.
Michael almost stepped on you this morning.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stepped on my heel.
So you probably recognize that voice, backed by popular demand. Mr. Chris Ingram with Infinity Wealth Management, our chosen expert in the field of financial planning because he is just the man. He's a great person. He is a great financial planner. He's accountable to our community. He's accountable to us. He's accountable to you. And he loves to share information on our show, thank goodness. And today, Chris, thanks for putting together a whole page of information. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that people need to know, huh?
Yeah. It never ends, trust me.
No doubt about it. Okay, so we'll touch on a couple of little housekeeping, Chris, and then we'll dive into some of the great information you have for everybody.
You got it.
Every week, we'll give you an idea what's going on in the markets. For example, we give you an idea what's going on with the jobs, because jobs basically allude to how the economy is doing and how it's recovering. And we give you that information because it's all about the trends, not about a particular number. And we try to dissect it for you and give you an idea what that really means to you. Because if you were to listen to the last couple of reports, the previous weeks, we had some of the lowest numbers we've had in 7 and 10 years. Basically, new unemployment claims, when we started our show 3 years ago, was well above 400,000 every week.
Well above.
Well above. And then when it dropped below 300, it was a good sign. And then it got down to an average around 350. And recently, we've had quite a few numbers right around the 300 to 310 mark. And but we said, be careful. Every once in a while, we have these little bubbles where it's good or bad, but it's all about the trend. And so we had a $300,000 mark that got revised at 304. We had another one back it up at 305 and 307. And what happened this week, Gino? Bounced all the way to 329?
It's sneaking up a little bit. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's probably pretty normal. The good news is, like you mentioned, you look at 3 years ago, you look at 2 years ago, you look at 6 months ago, we're in a much better place right now. Are there going to be spikes? Yeah, there's going to be spikes.
Sure.
Seasonal, transitional types of spikes and
weather,
reorganizations, weather, those kinds of things. How many people in there are in farms and different seasons. So I think you're always going to see some sort of spikes, but the overall consensus is that we're stable, right? The patient is stable. It's not, not in a horrible place, not in the best place it could be, but it's a good place.
It's not flatlining, though.
No.
So the good news is it is improving slowly, but it's not where we want it, but it is improving. It doesn't mean we're creating all the jobs that the unemployment numbers are showing. When we watch unemployment go from above 10% to where are we at right now, Gino?
6.7, 6.8, yeah.
Yeah. But that's not always accounts to jobs. That's a lot of people, unfortunately, leaving the job market or no longer looking for a job.
Well, we talk about that. Part of that is demographics, right? Baby boomers retiring and just saying they're done, or they stop looking, or they get discouraged sooner.
Yeah, but what's happening? They're coming back.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna quit. This is too hard to go find a job. And then about 6 months later, and Chris, you could probably talk on this one really well. All of a sudden, they're like, I'm spending my money faster than I thought. I don't think it's going to last, so I have to go back to work.
Yeah, time to go back to work.
Yep.
So are you seeing that, Chris, actually? Is that something that, that some people didn't prepare appropriately? They think they can go ahead and retire until they, see the massive gaping hole 3 or 4 months in and say, gosh, this isn't working.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too much with my clients, but I have seen a couple, like single, person who doesn't have somebody else to feed off of, and and is by themselves and maybe are bored, and they're finding that they are running through their money a little quicker than they thought, maybe going back to work. But honestly, most of my clients have planned and made sure that they have the money that they need to retire, and so they're not in that situation. But I have heard of several people in that situation.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny you say that. A lot of them do get bored. They're like, I can only play golf so much.
Yeah, they have the honey-do list, and they run through the house, and they do all the things that they wanted to do that they couldn't do while they were working. And then when they get done with that, they take up a hobby, and then they get bored with that hobby, and then they realize that they're just bored.
Right.
Now it's time to go back to
I
work.
know a lot of my success, the magazines and the CDs I listen to and stuff, they talk a lot about that, is that you need something, a purpose, basically. You need a driving force, otherwise you get bored. And that's why so many people, when they do retire, actually a lot of them don't live as long as you think they have all this time to take care of themselves, but a lot of them actually pass away within 3 years because they're just out of pure boredom, and they don't exercise as much and don't have a drive to basically stay alive. It's weird.
I'm a firm believer in that. I watched my grandmother, the minute she quit golfing, she said, it just hurts too much, I'm giving up golfing, was the minute we saw her health really start to decline. And I think you see that a lot. They stop working, they give up their hobby, they stop doing some form of exercise, and then, brain starts to slow down a little bit, body starts to tighten up and get a little bit worse, and it's not a good thing for the long haul.
That's funny. We watched my wife's grandfather do that. It's the exact same thing. He's like, I can't golf. What do I do now? That type of thing. You can't drive. What do I do now?
It's actually a really interesting thing. I wasn't really thinking about it that way, but yeah, because my grandma didn't have a typical hobby like you would think that everybody else does, golf or whatever these hobbies are. She stopped cooking. And that was her hobby. We realized really that was what she did for everybody.
Is that how you lost 100 pounds, Gino? You knew
I
I was going there.
Wow.
Yeah, but
hey, partially.
but like you're saying, stop using the brain, stop thinking about the recipes, stop standing up in the kitchen and making the food, and it's an activity.
So you have to have a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we head in, I want to talk on a couple of subjects in depth in the next two segments. So let's touch on the volatility in the market. One of the things we saw, Chris, is I pulled up a chart, and I'm going to post it on our Facebook page. If you want to like our Facebook page, like Don and Gino, on our Facebook page, we'll send this. But what's interesting is the durable goods orders numbers came out, and they're pretty strong. We've had a couple of peaks, and then it goes to another valley, and then it peaks out and goes to another valley, and we're at a peak right now. And the chart, interestingly, shows that each time the durable goods numbers goes up and down, so has been the S&P 500. And now we're at a peak with the durable good orders, so there's a little concern that we may have a pullback in the S&P 500. And we've been forewarning all of you out there for quite some time to be prepared for a potential correction. Do you foresee a potential correction still on the horizon, Chris?
I think it's definitely possible. You have a lot of analysts that are calling for a correction of some kind right now. A lot of people are trading emotionally. There's a lot of fear-driven trade right now because so many people think that a correction is coming. So it's possible, and you need to plan accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I know a couple of investors that don't invest how I'd like them to invest. They're gamblers using the stock market, really.
Mm-hmm.
They just buy $100,000 worth of Facebook one night, and the next morning, if they made money, they're in or they're out.
Gotcha.
They're not in a position more than a few hours. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, right? As long as it works more often than it doesn't, they're okay. And, I know that that's just way too stressful, right? And that's someone that's going through that and trying to make money that way, if you look at their long-term performance, it's usually not anywhere as good as the much less exciting, much better planned long-term portfolio planning. So do you have people transitioning from that I take a lot of risk and I gamble model to saying, can somebody just take care of this for me?
I do meet clients that way, where they come to me and they say, this is how I've been trading my portfolio, and it's just not working for me. I'm not going to completely knock that strategy, because there's some people that are very, very good at doing what you're talking about. The problem is the vast majority of people are not good at doing what you're talking about. So you get a lot of people who think that's the way to go. They've heard about other success stories and they attempt to do something like that, and it just doesn't turn out well, and they have more losers than winners, and that becomes the problem. And yes, a diversified long-term strategy is going to work out much better for most people.
All right, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned so we can make sure you're a winner and not a loser in the volatile market these days. When we come back with Chris Ingram with Infinity Wealth Management and the Don and Gino Show, we'll be right back. Don't go away.